It was one Nepo baby turned king after another, following William the Conqueror, William Rufus, Henry I, Stephen, and on and on. William Rufus was shot and killed while hunting with Henry, who claimed it was an accident, then took the throne. Henry had a daughter, but no son that lived, so when he died, nephew Stephen claimed the throne and fought cousin Matilda to keep it. It was her son that became king after Stephen died as Henry II. You can see the trend, the lust for the throne. Most feudal peasants knew little about royal battles except when their manor was attacked or they had to supply food, taxes, or peasants trained for war. It was somewhat different for London and other cities. William attacked London, but later gave the burgesses of London a charter with a degree of self-government. Then more attacks between Stephen and Matilda, and London put down the welcome mat for whichever army was near the city. The 13th century was relatively prosperous for England. The climate was warm, farming was productive, and the population increased. London grew from 80 to 100,000. The Magna Carta was signed, and the power of Parliament increased. Bad times occurred often, particularly in the 14th century, caused by fighting, flooding, failed crops, plagues, and more. England was affected by all the above, which led to starvation and the Peasants' Revolt of 1381, which did not turn out well for the peasant leaders. History books generally credit the kings that started the most wars as the great kings, at least if they won. By this measure, Edward III topped the list. Mom and her boyfriend overthrew Dad, Edward II, making him King Edward III at 14 in 1327. Then Edward ruled for the next half century. He campaigned against Scotland, then declared himself King of France, which started the Hundred Years' War. There were victories at Crécy and Poitiers, discontent at home, particularly over high taxes, followed by military flops. Results: death, destruction, high taxes, and lots of discontent. Edward III believed in divine rights of kings, getting the Pope's seal of approval and thinking his divine touch could actually heal someone. Divine right meant absolute power. In his later years, he had to give up some power to Parliament and might grudgingly agree with his ministers when they gave reasonable advice. Earlier, they were more likely to end up in the Tower of London with their survival in doubt. Edward III was succeeded by his grandson, who became Richard II. He was not a warrior king and wanted to end the Hundred Years' War. Richard still favored royal prerogative, but preferred art and culture. Unfortunately for him, he disinherited the militant aristocrat Henry of Bolingbroke. Henry invaded and soon captured Richard, who ended up dead, possibly by starvation. The invader became Henry IV. In 1399, his son became Henry V, one of the great military kings, especially for the Battle of Agincourt and Shakespeare's plays. He later captured Paris, but died of dysentery at 36. The claims and counterclaims of the end were based on military victory or maliciousness. It could have been when Henry Tudor defeated Richard III at the Battle of Bosworth Field in 1485, becoming Henry VII. It could have been when infamous son Henry VIII broke from the Catholic Church and seized all monasteries and had monks convert to Anglicanism or die, beginning in 1536, or when Oliver Cromwell defeated Charles I and had him beheaded in 1649. My focus is on culture rather than war. Consequently, a great arbitrary start date is when book printing started in England. William Caxton imported a printing press to England and published his first book there in 1476, Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. The published books helped develop standard English. An alternative is theater in London, particularly Shakespeare's plays beginning in the 1590s. Then there is English philosophy, with Francis Bacon high on the list with his writings of the early 17th century. Before we move on to the Renaissance, the major European cities had their own food and battle histories, beginning with London next time on Food, History, and Mystery.